Everybody come on in and vote.
Running into chambers became a familiar scene for lawmakers on the House floor as the video poker compromise took center stage. On the Senate floor, the bill passed easily, 44-1.
This issue just cannot stay out there unresolved on and on, and neither side has enough votes to impose its will on the other. Therefore, we have to compromise.
But the House couldn't come to a resolution even after 4 votes. At one point, supporters needed 25 votes to pass the compromise, but by the end of the day, they only needed 4.
There's a whole lot of strong arm tactics being applied at the minute. People are being called down to the governor's office. The governor's truly committed to getting this bill through.
So at the end of the day, 4 votes were taken and 4 votes failed. But supporters of the compromise say they are confident they will get the votes they need tomorrow.
A lot more people understanding that, listen, we're taking the chance of either going home with no regulations again this year, or we're going home with a referendum for the people and regulations in the event that the referendum fails.
And if the referendum fails, it won't be a disappointment to Representative Ralph Canty.
I'm standing on the principle, not on the party, not with the governor, not against the governor. I'm just against video poker and against gaming, period.
And for those who aren't against it, they'll be trying their best to sway the last few votes they need to hit the legislative jackpot.
What'd you get?
At Colony Apartments, there's a new kid on the block, and he always wears blue.
Hey, I've been greeted and hugged and invited to dinner.
He's only been around a week and has yet to move in.
That's gonna be my building, 6101.
This locked apartment will soon have an open door policy. It's where Officer Daniel Wesley will work every day. He's part of the Columbia Police Department's answer to preventing crime here after last week's triple murder led to a community outcry for protection.
This is one of the areas I kind of wanted, because I actually want to get out here and do something to make this community better. And fear is not an option.
Police say these incident reports are proof that the increased patrols are working. This week, they arrested 3 people after questioning them for suspicious activity and finding 3 guns in their car.
The report says a community complaint is why these men, who don't even live in the apartments, got caught.
How y'all doing? How y'all? Pretty good.
It's the kind of relationship Wesley wants, a loyalty that could help stop crime.
These tenants know more so than what the police would know. And by them communicating with us, it can help us be more proactive.
Even with Wesley one building away, neighbor Mary Ashley has a question.
What happens when they go home?
Wesley will be around from noon to 8. He says they're the most crucial hours, the time the neighborhood is awake.
Once I leave here at 8 or 8:30, the line units will pick it up. They'll patrol out here on random patrol. But if something major is to kick off out here in my absence, I am to be notified. I'll be out here as soon as I can.
But not a lot of activity is expected in nights to come. This week, residents got this letter informing them a curfew will start at the complex next week. Angie Goff, WIS News 10.
Y'all just don't know how long I've balled this up inside of me. 7 months. I've wanted this man dead. But if I can't get the death penalty, life with parole is fine with me, because he will never get out and hurt another child as long as he lives.
Erupting with emotion, Renee Thomas talks for the first time since her common-law husband, Kenneth Hinson, was captured in March. The 48-year-old was charged with kidnapping and raping Thomas's daughter and another teen in a secret room he built beneath a shed at his Hartsville home. He's been in jail since then.
What have you been thinking about the last 7 months?
Lady, you know as much about this thing as I do.
Did you do it?
I just said you know as much about this as I do. Did you do it?
Hinson was back in court. He walked in without cuffs and stood before a judge and a family that says he hurt them.
I can't do anything. I have to put my faith in the Lord and in the law.
The defendant has a prior conviction for criminal sexual conduct with a minor.
The judge listens as Attorney General Henry McMaster, whose office is prosecuting the case, points out why they're seeking life in prison without parole. In 1991, Hinson was convicted for sexually assaulting a 12-year-old girl with a knife. Under South Carolina's two strikes law, Hinton could go to jail forever if he's found guilty this time.
I'll see you later. Okay.
With not much to say, Hinton heads back to jail. Renee Thomas knows it won't be the last time she'll have to face him.
I will be here from the beginning to the end. I don't care how much I loved him before. I don't now. I hate him. I pure hate him. If my daughter would have not got out of the hole, she wouldn't be alive. I will never forgive him for what he has done to my family, ever.
The Attorney General's office says Hinton's trial will begin in March of next year. It's almost exactly 1 year from the day he was captured. Reporting from Darlington County, Angie Goff, WIS News 10.
Five Points after the flood. The sights and sounds of business owners trying almost literally to keep their heads above water. At the women's clothing store called Village, mud and moisture got into just about everything at floor level.
I've got lost revenue, and then we have to, of course, clean this facility up. We've our back room carpet is ruined. Bathroom is pretty much in shambles as well.
Village manager Amber Mathis was up half the night doing damage control.
I mean, what can you do? You're in shock and you don't know what to do except call somebody to get it out and hope that nothing's ruined.
Their pain was felt up and down Saluda Avenue. Because 5 Point sits in a basin, any heavy rain brings runoff from most of the surrounding community. The flooding is severe enough to trap drivers. At least 6 people had to be rescued last night. Horseman thought the 5 Point streetscaping project would improve drainage enough that her store would be safe.
We were under the assumption that that it would be taken care of altogether. We were not told that it would still be an issue.
Columbia leaders met this afternoon to go over the city's response and figure out what to do to correct the situation.
This is a long-term problem with long-term solutions that are required, that are expensive and require a lot of help on a lot of people's part.
Some short-term relief is on the way. The city is about to start work on a new drain pipe project here at Maxie Gregg Park, and by the early part of next year, that should help the flooding problem at Saluda and Divine.
But the city says a permanent solution requires major changes to the Rocky Branch watershed, which runs under 5 Points through the USC campus all the way to the Congaree River. Those changes could take more than $50 million in spending and many more years to complete. Jack Kinsey, WIS News 10. They seem to be everywhere. Payday lenders offering fast and easy cash. But what the signs don't say is that money often comes at a heavy cost. Fees that can add up to an annual interest rate of more than 390%.
It's a captured segment of low-income to moderate-income people who have a crisis, get caught up in it, and it becomes a spiraling debt problem.
As the number of lenders in South Carolina grows, there are now more than 1,100 statewide, so does concern about their impact on customers. People like Danny Forbes, one of thousands of South Carolinians who say they've sometimes found themselves with no financial alternatives. She recently took out a payday loan so she could get a cell phone.
You don't see the forest for the trees. You say, I want it now. It's knee-jerk reactions. Sometimes it's more important than a cell phone. Sometimes it's medication. Sometimes it's groceries for the children and all that. And that's when the real headache and heartache starts.
Among organizations calling for tighter rules on payday lending, AARP. A spokesman says older South Carolinians are often sucked into the trap of high-cost loans.
I think many of them are on fixed incomes and sometimes find themselves short during a month, and it's a one quick way to get a quick loan. Unfortunately, it just has exorbitant fees.
Forbes says she knew she had to pay her loan off quickly before the high interest plunged her more deeply into debt. She now has a good job at the Salvation Army and is newly married. She hopes to avoid another trip for a quick financial fix.
It can become a nightmare in a heartbeat, quicker than anybody can imagine.
Jack Kinsey, WIS News 10.
Like most high school seniors, Denise Boykin looks happy in her graduation picture.
Denise didn't do anything bad. You know, she just quiet, smile, help you and stuff like that, and then it's just happened.
That's why family friend Tasha Young says she is struggling with the 19-year-old's death.
I still can't believe that it has happened so close to home. You hear about it everywhere else, but not around here, you know, in this area.
Saturday afternoon, Boykin was shot in the head twice while driving this car. Investigators say the weapon was a semi-automatic rifle. It happened in the Barnyard Flea Market on Highway 1. 2 passengers in the car with Boykin were also injured, 20-year-old Raymond Brown and a 14-year-old girl.
We think it was targeted towards these individuals, and it centered around gang activities, centered around an argument that took place in a Columbia nightclub several months ago.
Sheriff James Metz says the gunmen were not just after Boykin.
They think they were targeting the boyfriend, but she happened to be one that they were actually able to get to show their presence and command over what was going on.
Young says Boykin's death is tragic, a young life now cut short.
She had just turned 19 last weekend. She was going to school.
Investigators have arrested 5 men in the shooting. Samuel Harmon, James Keat, and George Mack III have all been charged with murder. Brandon Harmon and Sherman Davis turned themselves in Sunday night. Harmon is also accused of murder, and Davis faces charges of conspiracy to commit murder. All 5 are between the ages of 17 and 20. The Lexington County Sheriff's Department is still searching for a 6th man they believe was involved in Saturday's shooting, but they say so far they haven't been able to identify him other than his street name. In Lexington County, Tamara King, WIS News 10.
He wasn't always known as Mayor Bob. Robert D. Coble was born in Columbia and grew up right here in the city that would later give him that famous nickname. He also made a name for himself at Dreer High School, where he excelled in debate and was the student body president. College was not far away, and Bob is a 1975 cum laude graduate of the University of South Carolina and a 1978 cum laude graduate from the USC School of Law. Bob met and married Beth McLeod in 1978, and they're raising their 6 children in Columbia.
I have always been an admirer of Bob Coble. When I learned that he had 6 children, I said to myself, he ought to be mayor of the city of Columbia because he really can produce.
Our city came to know him as Mayor Bob in November of 1990. The name stuck, and under his watch, Columbia has seen remarkable growth and dynamic change. Certainly, Columbia is going through a great renaissance.
Think differently. Rapidly evolving technologies are creating new careers every day. Learn differently. Today's smart jobs require smart choices in education. Work differently. Employers are looking for people with the experience and knowledge to be confident in a high-tech workplace. Are you ready for the future? Midlands Technical College is your key to education and career success. At Midlands Technical College, the future is here.
Welcome to Ion Scanner. In January, Cope Generating Plant completed 10 years of operation. And on March 14th, they celebrated that event. Although Cope went online in January 1996, the official dedication of the plant occurred on March 28, 1996. A crowd of about 250 attended the event. Plant Manager Harry O'Quinn welcomed several members of senior staff, dignitaries from Orangeburg County, and employees to the 10th anniversary celebration. SCANA CEO Bill Timmerman said the Cope plant was a turning point in the way the company builds plants.
This plant is a wonderful, unique example of how our company has changed in the last 15 or 20 years. When we first were evaluating this plant, we really wanted to do something different, and we went to a number of vendors, and we settled on Duke Floor Daniel and worked with them in an extraordinary collaborative partnership to really build this plant at what then was an extraordinarily low cost compared to what others in the industry were doing. At the same time, we paid a whole lot more attention to the human factors that go into operating a plant like this.
SCE&G President Neville Lorig noted Cope's outstanding safety and operations records.
When we make the 18th, we will have 4 years without a recording. And we have 54 months now without a lost time. Extremely good record. We've gotten awards from the Chamber of Commerce, State Chamber of Commerce, for excellence in our safety programs, 2 years. We've gotten awards for being the most in the nation now, talking about national awards now. 8th and 9th in the least amount of emissions. We've gotten heat rate awards year after year, and they're standing right back here on this red chart. You can see those heat rate awards. There's about 4 of them up there, all in the top 10 and top 20 in the nation. And also with capacity factor, which is how much time you run. And in fact, last year, I think, Harry, you were in the 92.5%, somewhere in that range on capacity. That means she was running almost 100%. 100% of the time.
One of the speakers from Orangeburg County was Greg Robinson, Executive Director of Economic Development. He said that the 2,100 applications for the first 21 positions at Cope in 1994 were due in large part to SCANA's reputation.
It really is a great day in Orangeburg County. I'm very humbled to be part of the economic development climate that we have in Orangeburg County, and most importantly, to be working for each of you as we try to recruit new companies that are equal to the standards of SCANA, because you truly are a quality company. I'm glad to be here today. I'm glad to be able to showcase what you have done as far as a level of investment in our county.
Under budget and ahead of schedule are sweet words when it comes to major construction activity. The Cope generating station was both when it came online in January 1996. SCE&G has expanded the way it brings coal into the state for delivery to power plants. This 50,000-ton ship came from Colombia, South America, to the port at Charleston. The coal that is shipped in from South America is offloaded to barges for transport upriver to Williams Station. Serena Birch, Senior VP of Fuel Procurement and Asset Management, says the process is one way the company is diversifying both the supply and transportation of coal.
Instead of getting coal just from the Central Appalachian region, we decided to start getting coal from overseas, from South America. That gives us a new source of supply, because lately the supply in Central Appalachia has been declining. In the past, we've been dependent on railroads for transportation, and the railroads cannot get us the amount of coal we need. So to be able to get the coal by ship from South America offers us an alternative in transportation. In terms of getting the coal from South America and shipping it, the costs are similar to the cost of Central Appalachian coal and of the rail transportation. Also, the coal is a good quality product from South America. It's low sulfur and it's better environmentally.
Gerhard Heimberger, General Manager of Fuel Procurement, says the problems with Central Appalachia have prompted many utilities to import foreign coal.
Those coal fields are being depleted and have several problems in production. Obviously, the depletion of reserves, there are permitting problems, environmental constraints, lack of labor, and the results of that field becoming less productive has affected all utilities in the United States. And the name of the game today is to look for diversity of supply and transportation. In addition to that, the railroads that serve us, namely Norfolk Southern and CSX, have gotten to the point where they're not able to meet all of utility demand. and that requires diversification of transportation.
Heimberger says while South America is the closest coal field to South Carolina, the ocean freight markets include locations around the globe.
The ocean freight markets for coal now include places like Russia, who rail their coal all the way across Siberia to the Baltic Sea. Polish coal is being exported and shipped by ocean vessel. South African has for years, as is Australian and Indonesian. Obviously, northern South America is the closest to us and has the quality closest to the needs of our plants.
SCE&G began testing imported coal 3 years ago and became more involved in the process as the railroad's ability to meet supply demands deteriorated. Utilities from New England to the Gulf, including Florida, are importing significant quantities of coal. This 800-foot-long vessel can carry 55,000 metric tons of coal into Charleston. The trip by barge to Williams Station takes about 2.5 hours. Heimberger says Williams Station is the only plant where coal can be offloaded from a river barge.
We offload it at a dock that we've constructed. The offloading piece of equipment is an excavator that has a clamshell attached to its boom. It loads directly into a bin, loads a belt, and currently we're using a temporary system of loading 100-ton trucks that go directly to the coal pile, about 800 to 1,000-foot run.
Heimberger says the long-term goal is to import between 500,000 and 1.5 million tons of coal per year and have a belt connected to the dock to eliminate the trucks. The whole process is another step SCE&G is taking to decrease cost and increase reliability.
According to the National Safety Council, 1 out of every 4 accidents is caused by poor backing techniques. Backing accidents may result in damage to vehicles, equipment, and property. They may even lead to serious injury or death. Here are measures you can take to back safely. Perform a 360-degree inspection before backing a vehicle. Trace your backing path on foot. Remember to look above and below the vehicle. Use a spotter if available. Roll down the window and turn off the radio while backing. Use all available means to back safely, including mirrors, the backing sensor, and turning to look through the rear window. Back slowly, listen, keep scanning, and be prepared to stop. Don't rely on backup sensors exclusively. Get out and verify if it alarms. Last year, backing accidents accounted for 40% of SCANA's preventable vehicle accidents. Do your part to reduce that number in 2006. For Eye on SCANA, I'm Keela Middleton.
A contractor hired by SCE&G has completed work on the upstream portion of the Lake Murray Dam. Jim Landreth, Vice President of Fossil and Hydro Operations, said riprap placed on about 1,500 feet of shoreline.
The wave action through the years it had caused some erosion or some damage to the upstream riprap, or armor as the engineers would call it, and we had to come back and place about 20,000 tons of rock just to dress it up and put the correct curvature and to protect the front side of the dam for years to come. The constructor was able to get in, the weather cooperated, and he was able to complete the work in 4 weeks rather than the allowed 6 weeks, and we're now returning the lake to the off-season level of elevation 354.
The rock used in the project came from the same quarry used to build the backup dam. It's part of 100,000 tons of rock from the quarry that were prepared and set aside for future use. While the lake was at the 348-foot level for the riprap repair, lake residents had an opportunity to do minor permitted excavations and repair and rebuild docks. Now that the repair is complete, the lake will begin rising back to its off-season 354-foot level. Before the riprap repair began, the state's Department of Transportation finished work on 2 new lanes between the 2 dams. That work was completed January 28th, and SCE&G began the riprap repair 2 days later. Completion of the new lanes helped facilitate the riprap work by enabling the contractor to work from the old roadbed and help reduce the cost and time needed to complete the project. Landreth said now that the riprap repair is complete, the DOT contractor will begin work on the lanes on top of the old dam.
He will actually dig up 2 feet of the old roadbed. He'll go down 24 inches. He'll take up the asphalt as well as the original concrete. He will widen the lanes by 8 feet to bring the old lanes up to current DOT standards, and he will install new guardrail, which will take about till mid-year 2007 before that opens up.
SCE&G will purchase the recycled roadbed and pavement removed from the top of the old dam to dress up the top of the new dam and service roads on the site.
This month, we spoke with fellow SCANA employee Rachel Reisinger about her experiences using the LiveWell Resource Center.
I have elevated blood pressure. I have tried several things myself with my doctor, and I cannot seem to get it down to an acceptable level. So I decided to talk with LaTanya about food choices and what the type of foods I should be eating and should not be eating. I've always been healthy. I've always exercised. I grew up on a farm, so it was always plenty of hard work, so I have never had to deal with any of these factors. With my blood pressure not going down like the doctor and I thought it would, we've been experimenting with medicines. So I've printed out the medicines that are used for blood pressure, and I came up here and talked with Daniel. One of the medicines that the doctor gave me, I had side effects of nausea. So Daniel helped me with that, and he told me I could, cut down. Of course, I follow all this up with the doctor at the appropriate time. My family is very close. So when my mom fell in August and broke her hip, that was very dramatic for us because she is 80 years old and has never been in the hospital, has never had anything like that happen to her. So of course, I'm going to be there with her as much as possible, and that was a big deal because I wanted to work and do my job also. So I did talk with LaTanya about that, and she talked with me about stress and how to relieve stress and how to take some time for my own use. And I've also made an appointment and had a meeting with the actual life assistance, a person that comes in, and just talk with her about all that's going on. This resource brings great value to me because I take my health and my husband's health very seriously. I have complained about drug costs for a long time now because I think it's just ridiculous at what we have to pay. So this resource has given us so many benefits. My drug costs have been cut by 2/3. I think it's just absolutely one of the best benefits that we could ever have. And I applaud SCANA for taking the time and the money and the effort to take care of their employees in this manner.
Well, that's our program for this month, and we thank you for watching. We remind you that you can watch Eye on SCANA and other videos on your desktop by accessing the SCANAvision webpage. We're always looking for story ideas for Eye on SCANA. If you have one, drop us an email at vcommunications@scana.com. As we leave Coke Generating Station, we remind you to make safety part of your everyday activities.
Lake Murray, 41 miles long, 14 miles wide, covering 78 square miles of land. Some call this lake the jewel of the Midlands. Created in 1930 by the Lake Murray Dam. 75 years later, SCANA is assuring the future of Lake Murray. Built for the right reasons, built for the long term. The Lake Murray Backup Dam is a remediation project like none the world has ever seen. In 1927, construction of the original dam begins, led by William S. Murray and his New York engineering firm, Murray & Flood. Farmers sell lake property for as little as $1 an acre. Work crews don't have bulldozers. They use steam shovels, trains, and mules. In 2 years, the dam is ready and the lake is filled, covering churches, homes, and cemeteries, entire towns. By the end of 1930, the Lake Murray Dam is generating electricity and international attention as the largest earthen dam in the world. The lake has filled many roles since, serving as a practice range for Doolittle's Raiders, a prime recreation destination, a major source for power and water. Now it is one of the fastest growing residential areas in the Midlands, and over the years, the Lake Murray Dam holds strong. It is bolstered several times to increase safety. The benchmark for safety is the 1886 Charleston earthquake, rated at 6.5 on the Richter scale. New analysis in the mid-90s finds that earthquake was more likely a 7.3. In a quake of that magnitude, the dam might not hold. Working with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, SCANA considers its options and determines that building a backup dam is the safest choice. To pay for this tremendous project, SCANA will use tax credits rather than do as other power companies and apply those credits to the bottom line.
The safety of the public downstream cannot and must not be compromised. Our goal for this project is to enhance public safety and at the same time ensuring that Lake Murray remains a viable resource for generations to come.
In 2001, SCE&G moves equipment and buildings, draws up plans, and solves problems. As project manager Sam Stockman explains, engineers and contractors are grappling with challenges never encountered before.
This was once the largest earthen dam in the world, so the work that we're doing behind this dam now is something that has not been done before to this magnitude. We're having to go back and retrofit the dam, an active dam, and build another dam immediately downstream, and it's just something that hasn't been done before.
One fortunate discovery, a large pocket of rock on the site. A 60-acre quarry provides material to build the backup dam. Important because it means SCANA will not have to transport rock. Another idea. Coal ash from the McMeekin generating plant can be used in the roller compacted concrete mix. The project ultimately recycles 99,000 tons. And then there's the lake. Dam construction on this scale has never been attempted anywhere without draining the lake. SCE&G is determined to preserve as much of Lake Murray as possible. In 2002, the lake level is lowered to 345 feet and holds there. Once the preparations are complete, excavation begins. Crews dig below bedrock, creating a stable foundation 50 feet beneath the bed of the Saluda River. Crevices in the bedrock are filled with concrete mix. Concrete is an essential component throughout the project, with more than 5 billion pounds of it in the center section alone.
Concrete we normally get at our house for sidewalks has a 3/4 inch aggregate in it, which it's easier to work. This here is real difficult to work. It wears out a lot of the equipment. It's real abrasive, so it makes it a lot harder to work with than your conventional concrete. We have a 2-inch aggregate, 3-inch aggregate, 3/4 inch aggregate, and then we make our sand through this crushing system. After it's crushed and in stockpiles, we put it into our pug mill. It goes into the pug mill blended with cement and fly ash, and then it's conveyed to the placements.
Safety continues as a primary focus. Monitoring systems are set up to gauge any shifts that excavation might cause.
It's the S word, safety. Safety is the reason for the project to begin with, and safety is a preeminent concern that we have as we're doing the project itself. We want to be sure that there's nothing that we are doing in the excavation that increases the risk that the dam may fail in some fashion.
As with any construction project, there's the unexpected to overcome. Crews work day and night pouring concrete, keeping construction on time despite heavy rainfall in 2003. By early 2004, the center section is rising. In the spring, refilling of the lake begins. crews hit their peak by fall, placing 18,590 cubic yards of concrete on November 3rd, a North American industry record. They have, in one 24-hour period, placed enough concrete to cover a football field with an 11-foot thick block. In 2005, the center section is complete, a 2,300-foot-high wall that contains more cubic yards of concrete than all of SCE&G's power plants combined. The South Carolina Department of Transportation still has to complete a 2-lane road between the new dam and the old dam, expanding Highway 6 to 4 lanes. But for SCANA, it's time to celebrate the culmination of 20 years of collaboration. At a ceremony on June 23, 2005, the $275 million structure is officially dedicated.
This owner demanded safety, demanded quality, and demanded productivity. But most of all, they demanded integrity. But they didn't just demand integrity, they demonstrated by example. As proud as you are of Saluda Dam, Bill, I'm sure you're even prouder of your people, and you should be.
And as you and others drive by this dam, I hope you will look at the dam and not necessarily think about the millions of yards of concrete or the millions of man hours that went into creating it, but rather let that be a monument that you can truly, a tangible monument that you can truly get your hands around, the things that as employees here we live to every day.
For almost 3 years, this has been the largest active dam construction project in the United States. Now, the Lake Murray Backup Dam can take its place in history, an achievement to stand for the ages, a 1.5 mile long symbol of SCANA's enduring commitment to serving its community.
On October 30th, sealed bids will be open for an historic gem located on the east branch of the Cooper River, 25 miles northwest of Charleston in UG, South Carolina. Middleburg Plantation is a stately 2,500 square foot plantation home on 326 acres. It includes slave quarters and the remains of a mechanized rice mill. The birth of Middleburg Plantation came in 1693 when a 100-acre tract of land and swamp known to Native Americans as Pimplica Maptica was marked for warrant to a young French Huguenot, Benjamin Simmons. Simmons later changed the name to Middleburg, reflecting the province of Zeeland in the Netherlands. He cleared land for 3 primary plantation enterprises, cutting timber for export, making pine tar and turpentine for naval stores, and raising beef cattle for sugar planters of the Caribbean. Early records show that Simmons completed the main house in time for the birth of his 4th child, December 7, 1697. Middleburg was home to Simmons and his descendants for over 100 years. In 1799, Jonathan Lucas Jr. married Sarah Lydia Simmons and brought great change to Middleburg. An inventor with an entrepreneurial spirit, Lucas developed and built the first steam rice mill in Charleston. He returned to his native England and ran his worldwide empire from London. The Lucas family owned Middleburg through the Civil War and then sold the plantation in 1872 to one of the few successful post-war planters, John Cumming Ball. Ball married Ann Hume Simmons, the great-great-granddaughter of Benjamin Simmons III, returning ownership of Middleburg to Simmons' descendants. Jane Evett Hill took possession of the plantation in 1981 from the Dingle and Gibbs families and embarked on an extensive renovation of the main house, recapturing much of the charm of the 18th and 19th century openness.
Architecturally, the main importance of Middleburg, if you will, is the porches. This is the oldest known house with porches in the United States. The porches are known to be original because in the ceiling, the attic area of the porch, between the ceiling and the roof, there are no nail holes in the studs to indicate there's never siding there. That's important because porches, as you know, are a huge component of the Southern architectural tradition. These weren't definitely not the first, but they are the oldest surviving. The other architectural item of importance is just the simplicity of the house and the structure. The structure is obvious. The man who built it, who died in 1717, could walk up to the house and he'd still recognize it today. It has changed so little. And it's survived 310 years with very little upkeep. Middleburg historically is important. It's figured in 2 wars, mostly the Revolutionary War. Battles were fought all around this in the 1780s, the last of which culminated in the British taking the house, preparing it to be burned, and at the last minute saved by the Continental Army. General Light Horse Harry Lee's legions arrived just in time to save the day, keep the house from being burned. And 80 years later, at the tag end of the Civil War, February 14th as a matter of fact, 1865, federal looting troops arrived on the scene to burn the house. At the exact same time, the real federal army appeared from the other direction and stopped them. So if it were not for that, Middleburg wouldn't be here for us to enjoy.
Well, the house is 1 room deep, which makes it kind of unusual because at that point in time, that's kind of talking about the coming of the Charleston single house. And so it's only 1 room deep. Downstairs, there's a large sort of living room or main room in the house. Off to either side are other rooms, and then on the second floor are several bedrooms. But the neat part of it is that it's just 1 room deep. That's what makes it unique and unusual.
But one of the interesting stories or legends of the property is the fact that the Marquis de Lafayette, when he had his triumphal return to the United States, was feted in Charleston. And one of the dinners held in his honor was out here in what they now call the Lafayette State Room. It's the big room, a 20 by 20 room on the end of the house. And the mantel is Adams style. He did this in the 1830s, but Adams style was that it gets fancier as time passes. And there is on the mantel 2 little busts. Instead of having cupids or something like that, there are 2 busts. And I'm not quite sure whether it's Lafayette, but it is an interesting change on the house, and we spent a good bit of time restoring that to its original condition.
Historic traces of early life at Middleburg include former slave quarters, a rice storage house, and the original steam rice mill invented by Lucas and registered later as a national landmark.
It's the building right behind us here, the ruins behind us of the rice mill. The building dates from 1799. The steam engines and boilers date from both the 1820s and the 1850s. This was a huge, huge technological leap, basically, in agriculture. And this is one of 2 remaining Charleston landmarks. Charleston steam engines still sitting on the original foundations. There are only 6 of these engines left that were made in Charleston out of the thousands constructed.
The historic plantation house and dwellings have withstood the ravages of time, the Revolutionary War, Civil War, and the powerful storms of hurricanes like Hurricane Hugo. Today, its 327 acres are home to numerous species of wildlife.
Middleburg Plantation here can be actually a wildlife enthusiast paradise, so to speak. Virtually, if it's found in South Carolina, it can probably be found here on Middleburg. From the game enthusiast who likes to hunt, can come and have a deer season that's basically the longest in the southeast, from August 15 to January 1. There's even an occasional little bear that may perhaps transverse across the property here, because there are a small population of black bears that actually exist along the eastern branch of the Cooper River here. As far as those for bird watching aspects, you've got virtually every type of bird species you could think of, from low scrub species that nest around field edges with some of the fields located along the property, all the way to eagles nesting on the rice fields, to ospreys feeding on the rice fields. You've got wood ducks that actually nest and raise brood habitat, and raise broods actually on the rice field habitat that's located here. Numerous hardwood species are located throughout Middleburg here that actually act as nesting, brood rearing, feeding places for virtually all types of wildlife here.
In 1995, Middleburg was placed under a conservation easement with the Lowcountry Open Land Trust, ensuring the integrity of the property and the accessibility for future generations.
This easement reflects the Hill's love for Middleburg and their appreciation for its not only natural, but the natural beauty and natural resources, but the historic house that's there, as we all know, is a national landmark. And so what's in the easement that they granted to the Land Trust is an embodiment of their vision for the future of Middleburg that protects its natural resources, protects its scenic and open space qualities, and protects the integrity, architectural and visual of this as a landmark. And as you drive into Middleburg and you see that avenue of oaks, and you know that that avenue of oaks is specifically protected under this easement, that it's always going to be there, it's always going to look that way. That's an enhancement of the value of that property. That's a protection of its value, and we're glad and consider it a privilege to be a part of that.
After 310 years, a new owner will take control of Middleburg Plantation. We invite your careful consideration.